Show.
Dude.
It's 1 3-hour show that you're getting paid a shit ton of money to do. Like,
Wait,
I'm
they don't
sorry.
have an understudy?
I mean, I watched my high school do Rent this past winter. There's not that much intense dancing.
I know.
No, it's not.
It's what Fox was billing it as. Fox.
Sucks.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. And welcome to Quick Sidebar, where we talk about anything and everything and get distracted often. I don't know why I said it weird like that. I'm here with Jake and
Bradley.
And I'm, of course, Dan, and we have a big special guest today. Drum roll. Are you going to add one in post, or is this it?
This is it.
Adam.
Now, if you're wondering why it sounded like I said that, just because I did. Adam. No, my brother's on the podcast.
That's me.
My younger brother by 5 years. Yes, we're not twins for those that actually know us in real life.
No.
But our voices do sound very similar, so we'll try our best to make them different. So you can, I'll talk higher.
Then I'll talk lower.
I'll just do these tiny Tom voice.
Yeah, you do.
Welcome to Quick Sidebar.
Can we all do tiny Tom voice? Welcome to Quick Sidebar, where we talk about anything and everything.
Get distracted often?
Oh, gosh.
All right, inside jokes. Adam, so now that we kind of gotten started, what are we talking about today?
Well, anybody that's still with us after that intro, we are talking about Marvel movies. I think specifically movies because I have limited knowledge of the comic books.
Yes. As do I.
MCU.
And the comic
MCU.
books are insane and endless, and it's
So-
madness.
We also talk about TV shows because I also have a very limited knowledge base.
I think we
Well,
can
I think
touch.
we can add.
We'll see, bro.
We can add in the TV shows, but I think it'll mostly be about the movies.
So, disclaimer for anyone who's a hardcore comic fan, we don't know a lot, and if we make a mistake, please forgive us.
Also, there are most likely Infinity War spoilers included in this podcast.
Yeah, so if you care
Oh,
about
yeah.
Infinity War, you
Most-
still
most
haven't seen
definitely.
it. But I only saw it like 3 weeks ago, so who am I to?
Spoiler
Also, if
warning
you haven't
right
seen
now for
the memes
like,
that have been coming out since May.
We won't have any Iron Man 3 spoilers though. So if you haven't seen it, don't
If you haven't
worry.
seen Iron Man,
You're
how
safe.
you mean how that Killian guy is actually is actually the Mandarin the whole time?
Wow, and that's
Ben
all right.
Kingsley
Well,
is not the Mandarin.
What?
He's actually just
I thought
I just promised to
Yeah.
to hundreds and thousands of people.
I know, and you just sparked within me this desire to break that promise instantly.
whenever you make a promise to the crowd, do you notice how we always fuck with that?
Those seem to be a
I feel like I
constant.
just inspired you to kill. Like that was the kind of fire I saw in your eyes. Like I gave you an idea. Like, oh my god, I'm ready to
As
murder
a,
people.
As an expert,
I'm ready to
of this
Kingsley,
podcast,
not the Mandarin. He has no power.
some British actor.
A shitty British actor.
But have you guys heard the quick
Shitty
sidebar?
British
Have you guys
actor
heard
in
the
the movie?
theory
Plays it.
that he isn't a shitty actor?
Wait, what?
What?
And that he actually is the Mandarin, but he's secretly pretending to be a shitty actor, and that he
That would
is
be-
using the guy.
See, but
It's like a whole
hey, but that's
circle
but
of madness.
That's over now because we'll never get to know the truth.
Yeah.
That's
Unless the Mandarin shows up in the new
Oh my
Avengers
gosh.
movie and
The
is
Mandarin
actually
is
Thanos.
oh my god!
I always
Ben
knew that
Kingsley.
Thanos looked a little bit like Ben Kingsley.
It's
just
Ben,
like,
it's Ben Kingsley as Josh Brolin as Thanos as Cable as Thanos again. I figured it out.
Oh wow!
We're on to you, Marvel.
Wait, are you telling me that
Very
Josh
confirmed.
Brolin was Gandhi in the biopic of Mahatma
That's
Gandhi?
what I'm hearing.
Wait, does this mean Ben Kingsley was the older brother in Goonies? Whatever his name is.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
wow.
don't remember his name now.
Wow.
I
This
just
is
know it was
getting
Josh
crazy.
Brolin.
All
right.
So we're switching
No,
now.
it was
The
Ben Kingsley.
God, you're
topic,
right. Sorry.
I love Marvel.
Wow.
the topic of today's episode is now Ben Kingsley theories.
Kingsley theories. What roles?
There
he really
can't be
plays.
many more after that.
That's it.
Oh, there's an endless amount, my friend. Okay, so
What's the first question there?
yeah,
Adam?
lead up.
first
lead us,
question.
Adam.
I thought we'd just go around and see if we can actually get through a whole thing.
Probably not,
would
but
be
we'll try.
the favorite, each of our favorite and least favorite Marvel movie.
Okay.
About the 20 of them that are currently
Isn't there only there's like 19 or something?
19, 20, something around there. But out of
That's a
all of
lot.
them that are currently
8
in
or
the
9. I
MCU,
don't know.
That's pretty good for 10 years of movies. For having that's about 2 movies a year,
That's
which
insane.
And of course, there's been used more and less and stuff. But that's
Yeah.
pretty good, and they're all, for the most part, they're all pretty solid as far as like production value and now as far as writing and stuff. Now we can talk about that. But
okay.
who wants to go first?
You.
Yes.
Oh,
You,
okay.
Dan.
That's Daniel speaking.
Yes, this is Dan.
Yeah, that's what you need to do every time.
Hi, Dan here. Dan from Quick Sidebar here.
Dan's from Quick Sidebar.
I'm the Quick Sidebar.
I'm going to say that for myself. So
Hyper aware that I'm in a podcast right now. Well, my close friend, I guess you guys know Captain America. He's my favorite superhero. I don't know if you guys know that.
Oh,
or
yeah.
even-
Yeah.
But yeah, so Captain America, I think I don't know.
I didn't know that.
I just, Captain America. Well, now you know. And my favorite Captain America movie, probably Winter Soldier.
Oh, love it.
I was like, oh, you don't
wasn't
like
sure.
it?
No,
Yeah, that reaction was very. I think of all the Marvel movies, that's my favorite as far as like the action, and I think the story is very interesting, and I like all the characters in it. Like I like Black Widow, and I like Falcon, I like Captain, obviously. Winter Soldier's not my favorite character, but because he's like the antithesis to Captain America, and he's kind of like he's like the Nazi version. I don't know. I kind of like the good versus evil thing that they have going there, and I just like the overall flow of the film, and I just think that's my favorite Captain movie. And since he's my favorite superhero, that's my favorite Marvel movie.
I don't remember it very well.
See, it's not ever. Some people don't like it. Some people really do.
Like, I remember thinking it was fine.
Yeah, see, for some people...
Wasn't that the one with the twists where, like, you find out...
The Hydra...
The shield was really Hydra the whole time.
Oh! I was thinking of a different twist.
Oh, which one were you thinking of?
I can't remember exactly what it is. Like...
Is it a Captain America movie?
Something about how Tony Stark had something to do with, like, his parents dying.
That's Civil War. Which
Oh,
and
yeah.
that shouldn't have been billed as Captain America, because I think what they did is they had a Captain America movie slot, and they were like, oh, let's make it Civil War. Because Civil War is supposed to be like
basically an
all-encompassing.
Avengers movie is
It
what it
is.
was.
I mean, and that's
Let's
the
be
one
honest, the
comic I
last
really
like
read.
9 movies have just been Avenger movies.
Essentially, I mean, there's so much. So, but that's Civil War, which is technically a Captain America movie.
Okay.
And my least favorite, I really hate Thor, like the original.
Oh, yeah.
With Natalie
That was bad.
Portman, and that was still when they were finding their groove with the superheroes. And Chris Hemsworth was still kind of this like douchey actor that held. Now he's fine. Now I don't see him as a douche, but he definitely had like this air about him. At least it seemed that way. And that one, I don't know. It was just like an empty movie that just seemed rushed to get Thor out to then get Avengers out. But they already had a big base with Iron Man and Captain that it didn't matter. Like how DC tried to rush Aquaman and all this stuff, and it didn't work out.
Well, see, Thor, I think on that, I think Thor works better in the group movies. I like him as a hero a lot better in like the Avengers movies when he's with the other Avengers. When he's on his own, Ragnarok might be an exception, but
because it gave you more. Because Ragnarok took you to his world more per se, and like it put you more in the quirkiness of.
But see, my problem with Ragnarok, quick sidebar, was that the tone of the comedy, the whole Thor, just shifted drastically.
It was like an 80s.
Well, that's why, in my opinion, I think that's why he became suddenly likable. Was the fact that they were like, okay, this clearly isn't working.
So
let's change things up, and then all of a sudden he was funny. And from the very first minute of the movie, he started making jokes about it. He was like, hold on a second, let me get around to the other side.
That's right.
I love the job of having like the same universe, but yet different versions of it. Like Captain America is a more serious take. Like Iron Man is more serious. But you got Guardians and now like Thor and stuff that are more like lighthearted and tongue-in-cheek, but yet it's still the same world, and somehow it works, which I think is pretty cool.
I think it was such a good move by what is his name, Taika Waititi,
Taika Waititi, close to that, around there.
Forgive us if we got that wrong.
Yeah, but if you're listening, I thought it was easily one of the most enjoyable Marvel movies. It was so easy to watch, and I think part of it was because you knew that it was all leading up to Infinity War, so there wasn't the stakes weren't very high because you knew who needed to be. You knew that they needed to get Thor and Hulk back to everybody else. So you knew how it was going to end. So it was just fun. I just enjoyed the hell out of it. And But quick sidebar. Great use of quick sidebar. Adam, great use. You're a seasoned pro.
Thank you.
He's been listening since day one.
I'm an expert. I've listened to every episode.
Yeah, and he's usually where I get a lot of feedback from him too. I'm like, hey, how does this read? So he's a good.
If you have any questions, just contact me.
Yeah, contact Adam. He's our PR rep. Who's next? I don't even know what I'm not related.
Who's next?
I don't know.
Jake.
Okay. I'll start with my least favorite, which is also the original Thor.
Okay.
It was so unmemorable for me. I didn't watch the second one, which I heard was worse.
I haven't seen Dark. Is it Dark?
Oh, no.
I don't think
Dark
it's worse. I think
the second one was definitely better.
Oh, was it? Oh,
Because
I think it's a little bit better.
I definitely watched the first one recently and was like, oh my gosh, I did not remember how awful this was.
The main villain's like the weird metal.
Well,
dude?
it's
Like,
Loki,
come on.
but it's also
Well, it's
Loki's
Loki.
not. He doesn't. It's kind of the structure of how stories are is like there's the good, they introduce a character and then they fight and then something bad happens and they have to redeem themselves from that in the third act. That wasn't a thing. It didn't happen. He was kind of on top of Loki the whole time. Loki was trying to do some bad stuff and nothing. He didn't really succeed ever.
Yeah, it felt rushed.
And it wasn't very good. But I agree.
So, agree.
But so I didn't like Thor, and thinking of a favorite is tough for me because I would say like the last 6 movies all kind of blend together. Like I
It's
can't
kind of one mega movie almost.
like every time I watch a Marvel movie, I'm like, oh, that was great. But there are some Marvel movies that I have like specific memories of like being surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Winter Soldier was one where I didn't see it in theaters. I had just rented it. And I remember finishing, I was like, that was awesome. Like that was the first time I felt like the action in it was just stellar. Like the fight choreography was so good.
Yeah,
and I just
well done.
I loved every part of that movie. And like it was a long one too. I think it was like almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
and
it was
just
about
super
2.5
well
hours.
paced. Like I loved it.
But it doesn't feel long too, which is nice. It flows real well. Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, had a similar effect where I remember seeing the trailer for it and being like, this is going to be a dumb fucking movie. Like, this is Marvel. Well, I don't read anything. I read any comics, so I have no idea. I'm like, this is going to be stupid.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it with my family in California and leaving changed. I was like, this is comedy right here. This is it.
Yeah.
And that's when I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, before I started watching Parks and Rec. So like that was my first impression of Chris Pratt, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Oh, I loved it. And then the original Iron Man, like that always
Classic.
has like a staple in my. And I was watching a little bit of it recently, and it's so good.
It holds up.
Like I love how dark it is.
Yeah.
Like his whole time when he's in the Middle East and he's like fighting to survive. Like
Well, that was a very
shit-
topical time.
Well, it's topical, and but the reason it's so dark is because that's when Universal still had Iron Man, so that was a whole different production company.
Yeah, there was 2 Marvel movies
that makes a
before
lot of
Disney got a
sense.
hold of it. There was
Whole
Iron
different-
Man 1.
So different tonally from the rest
The
of
only
the
thing that connects it is that it's Robert Downey Jr. Because
Wow.
Adam's right, because that's when they came out with the Edward Norton Hulk, and Robert Downey Jr. was in the end
Yeah.
of that. Like that was the like.
That was the end credit scene as Tony showed up in the bar
with
and
the
they teased Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though the story kind of shifted from there because Tony ended up not really being that involved with the Avengers later on, so it was a little bit strange how Disney shifted that. But yeah, is it?
Oh yeah, no, we're just, but yeah, it's because technically it's not even it is part of the MCU, but in a way it's not because it's totally different. The mouse wasn't backing that one, so it didn't have the Disney touch on it that all the rest would have.
The Mickey,
the Disney sprinkling of magic.
Spritz Disney.
Please don't kill me.
Wait, we talk about Disney, Brad.
We should do that. We should. Real quick.
We've already established, but in case you forgot,
Nor will they ever be.
Disney, not a sponsor.
Yeah.
What you want to be?
What that would be a fun episode is if we just took famous Disney movies and tried to analyze where the Disney spritz is, where the spritz of Disney is. You know, like what made this movie a Disney movie?
Oh,
it's for another time.
I could be good at that one. Or really bad at it either way. Blinded on my love for them.
Note to self, Adam at home. I'm going to steal that idea for my own personal podcast.
What is that?
Adam Sidebar.
Adam Sidebar. That's just what we call it. This is the original that you come up with. Come on, you're better than that.
This is my responses to your guys' episodes.
So every following week is like your and it's just Adam like in a room and like you can hear us in the back. He's like, now I don't agree with what Bradley just said, but
so listeners, that'll be out soon.
Brilliant
follow
idea
that.
now well, listen to Jake's response. Let's play it back now, slower. He seems agitated here.
I can only imagine what he looks like when he's yelling at Dan and you see a little vein popping out of his forehead.
Left eye and it bulges. By the way, podcasts with one person are very weird to listen to.
Yeah.
Bill Burr has one, and it's very strange.
I think it depends on the tone. You know, if you're going like I think a comedic podcast would be very difficult to do with one person, unless you're like unless it's like a commentary like podcast where you're reacting to other stuff. If you just have to generate your own shtick, like.
But even if you're
like that's tough.
I don't know, just a single person podcast would just be strange.
Well, it's like a video essay. I mean, those are all over YouTube and usually short, but that's basically what it would be.
Yeah, that's true. But those have the visual element that may make them a little more interesting.
But even like any sort of like personal development podcast where it's like, you know, different ways, you know, like there are a lot of spiritual podcasts out there where, you know, I think they're very easily done with one person, but
that's true. I guess it depends on what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
All right, Brad.
Brad, what about you?
What are you starting with? Let us know before you just say a movie.
Least favorite.
Wait, no. Well, see, you've already messed. I was going to say, just say a movie and we can guess.
All right. No, I'll mix it up. I'll mix it up.
Okay.
You won't know if I'm going to say least favorite.
It's a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, just so
Brad's going to say his middle favorite. The one he remembers the least and dislikes.
I feel like you'll be able to tell.
By the way you say the title, we can figure out if you hate it or like it.
Yeah, no inflection. Just straight delivery.
It's a tie. Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3.
Okay,
least favorite.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see it in your face.
I almost said Iron Man 2 is my least favorite movie.
It might have been Thor, except that Thor has already been talked about a bunch. So I wanted to bring up something new.
Bring up something else, yeah.
Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3 are both so forgettable for me, and they feel like the same movie. Like, I was trying to think of, like, the difference between the two, and then I was like, I don't actually remember what happens different in both of them. I think it's Mandarin for 3, and the guy with the electric...
Mickey Rourke.
But then...
Whiplash,
I remember he wasn't in it for very long, and then he got replaced by something else?
No, he was...
Justin Hammer was like the... Because they're kind of two villains. He was like the financier bad guy who's behind... He paid for Whiplash to get all of his weapons and cool stuff.
Okay.
Because he wanted Whiplash to make him Iron Man suit.
Sam Rockwell?
And then he made his own Iron Man suit because he just wanted to kill Tony.
Right.
Sam Rockwell, yeah. He was Academy Award winner, Sam Rockwell. He was kind of bad.
What did he win an Academy Award for?
Best Supporting Actor for last
3 billboards.
For, 3 billboards outside.
Oh, and he's nominated again for Vice, too. Played with George Bush. But anyway.
But, see, my thing about those two movies, and I don't want to interfere with what you were saying, Brad.
No, it's fine, whatever.
That's what we do. Like, no, fine. Talk, sure.
But... basically both Iron Man 2 and 3 I have a conflict with because everything about Tony Stark in both those movies I love. They both have good character development for him. There's both interesting stories and you get to see Tony Stark and how he develops as a person and how he gets along with his suits but then everything else going on, the villains and the subplots are all boring and crap. It's terrible. So I like watching them for Tony's character development,
but not the action.
But the villain and everything else is lame.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So it's a weird relationship.
Yeah.
With those movies in particular.
Also, kind of weird that like at the end of Iron Man 3, he's like, "I'm done being Iron Man," and then they're just like,
he was.
No, and then they obviously wrote him a fat check and then came back. But at that point, I think Robert Downey Jr. was just about finished with.
Well, he didn't. From what I understand, he didn't like it because he films him alone. He spends most of the movie alone in like a tube where they film
the face section.
And so he didn't. From what I read, of course it's the internet, so it's all true, obviously. He didn't like it because he didn't like the acting by himself. Because he spent most of his time was just in a room alone with him and a camera, right?
And then they found a cooperation, a middle point. So that he went on that 2-minute run with Pepper at the beginning of Infinity War. This is your acting moment, Robert. Do what you will with
it. Your physicality moment.
You're going to be running.
Only one shot, unless you want to do another.
Speaking of Gwyneth Paltrow,
oh God!
How do you have a callback there, Dave?
We're not going to loop back to that.
We can leave Goop alone. We need to let Bradley continue on his
Brad.
discussion.
Yeah, Brad. Most favorite.
Most favorite is tricky. I want to say...
I love that one.
That's a good one.
Yeah?
Tricky.
Amazing.
Best MCU movie they've made so far.
Classic. And the after credit scene.
So good. If you haven't seen it, guys, check it out. I think it's on Netflix.
The teaser for Tricky 2. The trickier. I don't know.
Even trickier.
Even trickier. Sorry. Double
probably Civil War is what I want to say. But I also, it's kind of tied with Ragnarok because I really enjoyed that one. Like that, I think that's the one I just had the most fun with. And then Civil War, I really liked just with all of the. Well, first of all, Spider-Man There was a huge hype for Spider-Man for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I really liked Spider-Man in Civil War, and then they made a movie about him, and now I'm like, okay, I could care less about this Spider-Man.
Because he's not that exclusive.
I almost want to say that Spider-Man Homecoming is my least favorite Marvel movie just for the fact that they ruined Spider-Man, but I can't because Iron Man 2, 3, and Thor are still out there. So.
Bradley, there's a lot of people that disagree with you.
Call back to the beginning of the pod.
Was it the first episode?
It was.
Oh, wow.
Spider-Man.
Look at that.
All right. Well, Adam, share your thoughts. Favorite, least favorite.
I'll go straight up with my least favorite, and this is one that I don't think he hasn't seen it. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I may have.
Ant-Man and Wasp.
I have not seen it yet.
No, I haven't seen it.
You seen it?
I have seen it, yeah.
I didn't like that movie at all. It was comedic. I liked it a little bit then. There was funny parts about it, but the entire movie was literally there to set up the end credit scene. That's the only reason they made a whole hour-and-a-half long movie. Was
here's
for
the
end
thing:
credit
is like
scene.
the entire movie is really boring, and not a lot really happens, and it's not great writing. And the only reason that it has any redeeming qualities whatsoever is because of Paul Rudd.
Well, to say
Okay,
Paul
yeah.
Rudd's in it.
That's
Well,
it.
yeah, I mean,
Paul Rudd, I think, is
I'll
shit.
give credit where credit's due. Paul Rudd.
If Paul Rudd was not in that movie, I would have hated it.
Yeah,
But the fact that he was in it was it was all right.
Well, in Wasp, I don't think her character got much more interesting, honestly.
No, not really. It was still pretty shallow.
Yeah, she got a suit and she could fly around and fight now.
Well,
but
clearly this was like their Thor. Like they were just writing this to quickly set up these characters and get Wasp established, so that in this next Avengers movie, when they all come back, because none of them are dead, and if any of you believe that they're dead, you're stupid.
Well, there's already the trailer for the new Spider-Man movie out. We know that they're not dead.
I think Gamora might actually be dead.
I don't think so because they have the time stone. They can just rewind that shit. Just take it all back.
Well, no,
none of
the
it
I don't
happens.
think it's going to be as simple as them just getting just
destroyed
the time
after he
stone.
snapped his fingers.
What? No.
No?
Really? No.
You saw the gauntlet. It was all messed up and broken.
Yeah, but okay, here's the
all
thing.
They could try to get the dwarf guy to help them make another one.
I mean,
His hands are
here's the
messed
thing.
up,
Here's
but-
the thing.
You mean Academy or
Emmy Award winner Peter Dinklage?
Yeah.
It's your own bird. How do you feel, Jake? Feels like double sizzle.
He helped me with my own.
The bird
set.
didn't just burn yourself because he was trying to burn it anyway. Like,
No,
no,
but
sizzle
did you
twice.
just-
Said double sizzle.
I thought you said
no.
feel your nipples sizzle. And then you made this hand motion
This is getting
with
spicy,
both
isn't
of your
it?
hands.
Feel your nipples sizzle, Jake.
That's what happens every time I
was
burn
so
someone
confused.
anyway.
God.
That's why I love insulting
sizzle.
people. I just get a little. Yeah.
No, but here's the thing. I mean, Gamora might be dead, and Loki might be dead, but I don't think so.
Loki,
still Disney.
I just wanted. They started that movie off on a very serious note.
Loved it. Because
I like the show, but they showed
mistakes.
him actually choking out Loki.
Well, because
hardcore.
they wanted to establish that this was a serious movie. This
Yeah,
wasn't
and
their usual
it set the
goofy
tone.
shit.
It really did a good job, which is why I think the Russo brothers are two of my favorite directors.
Well, they did,
They definitely directed
Soldier.
some of the best
So-
Marvel movies.
and they did Civil War too. I think, too,
Yeah.
which are probably the two best.
Speaking of, I am equally torn on my favorite.
Okay.
For different reasons, but my favorite because of the content and for watching it value is Civil War, because I feel like it's just so grounded compared to a lot of the stories that we've seen around it.
It's the most realistic too. I think.
Well, like compared to Thor and Guardians, we've seen space stuff and kind of fantasy-esque things going on, and Civil War was complete human element of the Avengers and their characters.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any massively insane powers. I mean, I guess you could say Black Panther had the whole super soldier. Black Panther and Captain, not really super soldiers, but it was very human of a superhero movie compared to what's been going on before and after it. And my favorite, because of sentimental value and just kind of time placement, is The Avengers, because The Avengers is a historic movie, I think.
Oh, well, yeah.
The Avengers one.
Well done.
It's the first time you've had that many characters with self-established stories.
Yeah.
We've seen them in their own movies come together and work on one film. I think that movie is historic, and in that sense, it's equally one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know who one of my favorite villains is? Real quick, while I'm thinking of it.
Maybe that was one of my topics, Jake. You might be
Okay, then I'll wait.
No, I'm saying you're transitioning. I'm saying you're doing a good thing, Jake.
Okay.
Yeah, so you go. So we're never going to go around and share our favorite villains. We're back on villains. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Just a flashback to all of our first episodes.
Who's your favorite?
Okay. One of my favorite villains, because I have never really liked the villains in Marvel. I think it's one of their weakest points. I think they always make the superheroes look much better.
Yeah.
There's not much. There's never
for the hero.
The stakes are never very high, in my opinion. Especially, I mean, the stakes were higher in Infinity War, but since they've been building up to the Avengers, like the stakes, you always know that the bad guy's just bad because he's bad or because of some dumb reason, and that it doesn't fucking matter because the superhero's gonna prevail. But I really liked James Spader in Ultron.
That's Chandler's
Ultron.
favorite. Chandler loves the second Avengers movie.
I wouldn't say that like it was one of my favorite Marvels because I don't think it is.
The
but
movie itself is not that great.
He was so good for not being able to emote at all with his body or his face. Because it was a robot, like even if they did motion capture, like they weren't capturing the emotion in his face. I don't think.
Not in the sense that they normally do.
He is so talented. Like I honestly think it was just like a demonstration of his chops.
Well,
in that.
he had a very like, because even though he said like kind of comedical things sometimes, and he took like not a lighthearted spin on his thing. I mean, I guess you could call it that, but it was very. There was like a seriousness to what he was saying.
Oh,
so
yeah,
when he did like do his Pinocchio thing, he kept doing the no strings
Yeah.
me. That shit was so creepy
Yeah,
because it was
yeah.
like, he's using this goofy old Disney song, but he's deadly fucking serious. But he's gonna drop a city out of the fucking sky.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I took everything he said so seriously. Like there was no part of me that didn't take him seriously.
Well, and I think that also just comes from James Spader because I've seen James Spader in a show our dad likes called Boston Legal. It was him and William
yeah.
Shatner. It was like about lawyers in Boston, hence Boston Legal.
Not a sponsor.
And that's like a dark comedy, kind of like a lighthearted yet serious spin on like drama in the courtroom. Obviously, as Robert California in The Office, and even though he's a goofy fucking character,
He does it so well.
He had such a presence, and he had such like he carried this presence about him, and it was like, oh, this guy's serious. And then he's in that show called The
Blacklist.
Blacklist, yeah.
And even though it's a goofy network show, I don't watch network TV because usually it's bullshit. But his character, from the clips I saw and the few episodes I did actually watch, he's very, again, a more lighthearted take on shows. Hence why I don't like cable TV, or not cable, network TV. He was so serious, and like so I just think he just has like that air about him. So then his voice was he really was able to translate that well. So I actually would agree. I think Ultron's one of my favorite bad guys.
I agree with you that Ultron is an interesting bad guy because I have been iffy on him for a while. When I recently said I like him a lot, because initially when I saw the movie, I thought that he was too. I thought he was too much of a person, and he was too jokey, and he wasn't very scary. But then I realized, because I did see an episode of the cartoon, I think, where Ultron was in it, and then he was Ultron, but he just had like a robot voice, and I was like, "Ooh, that's spooky." But then I realized that that's not the point of Ultron. He's not just Siri that wants to kill everyone.
He's a reflection. He's a mirror.
Well, he's an artificially intelligence.
Well,
he's a person. He's just in a robot.
Well, and the reason that he makes the jokes that he does and talks the way he does is because he learned like from the internet and how we are. He's a reflection of society, which is why it's creepy, because we're looking at ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes him such a
That's some
villain.
deep critiques right there. Wow, deep critiques from Dan.
Dan's deep,
and that's another podcast.
Launching next week on SoundCloud.
Listen to the review of that podcast on Adam.
Or how to review this podcast.
Adam Sidebar.
Hey, Dan, what are you playing?
I'm playing the new Red Dead game.
Cool, man. All right, well, we're gonna head out. We'll see you later tonight.
Damn, you're still playing?
Yeah, it's been like 10 hours and 13 minutes.
Really? Jeez, time flies, huh?
Well, Dan, I gotta say, you look great, all things considered.
And I feel great too. That's because I got my gaming clothes at Project Meta Online.
Project Meta?
Yeah, guys, Project Meta is a clothing company right out of Fort Collins that makes comfortable, affordable clothing for all your long gaming sessions.
Whoa!
Yeah, and all I did was go to projectmetaonline.wixsite.com/projectmeta, and they had a bunch of cool designs.
Wow! But Dan, you know me. I'm all about saving money. Is there any way I could
Get a coupon?
You sure can. Just use coupon code SIDEBAR to get 10% off of your purchase.
Awesome!
Thanks, Project Meta! Just to get it off my chest, because I've been thinking about it and thinking about how to say it, but I want to just listen to you guys, so I just need to interrupt everything and say it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Are you about to tell you to poop? or
No,
something?
I'm not gonna. I would have done that.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe just the urge. It hits you sometimes.
It does. It has.
Out of nowhere, you're just like, oh, gotta go.
Yeah. I feel like I'm watching a commercial or something.
Kind of like,
Gotta go.
if anyone needs commercial jingles,
You guys should
has
establish that.
it-
That should be a piece of the podcast.
Has this happened to you?
you're sitting recording a podcast with your friends, and all of a sudden the feeling hits you. Whoa, gotta go. Adult diapers for that risky situation. For that tense situation. No.
So that you never have to interrupt another podcast recording.
Oh, boy.
No, I just want to say, Matt Damon, if you're listening,
Excuse me?
This is not where I saw
props to him for taking on his role in Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, that's right.
Because honestly,
he played an actor portraying Loki.
But
if you haven't
I
seen
mean
the
that
movie.
honestly, because I feel like it's easy when you get to the kind of level that he's at. I mean, he's a household name for the past 15 years.
What else has he been in? I don't.
Okay. Blah.
You don't know, but you can't.
No,
Wait,
who's
Jack the Ripper?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What are you talking, Jack the fucking Ripper?
I thought you were
Maybe
really.
I was.
Oh, that you weren't. No, I just think like it's awesome when you see actors take on these goofy roles that like mean nothing. They don't add anything to their resume, like
Oh,
anything
yeah,
to
I
their
love that.
like esteem or their prowess, like just for the
Just
sake
they
of
want to
like.
fucking
just
be
for
in
fun.
it.
Oh,
I like how Daniel Craig was in Star Wars. He was like, "Hey, can I
Yeah.
be in your movie?" And they're like,
Yeah, that was awesome.
Throw on this fucking
Yeah.
stormtrooper outfit, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Matt. I call him Matt.
Is it because he's from Boston? You're from Boston. You think you got that Boston thing?
It was Matt Damon who was also in Deadpool 2, right?
Was he in Deadpool?
Yeah,
He was the hillbilly who.
That he like or oh no, wait. When he's falling out of the like wait.
Yeah, when
No, Terry Crews.
when Cable.
No.
No. It's a different part. When Cable goes back in time to our time, there's like a scene where it's like two hillbillies sitting on the back of a truck talking about toilet paper.
I don't remember.
Oh shit! Because Cable
And
runs into him. Or
Cable
something.
runs into him and then Terminators them by like taking their clothes in their truck.
Oh shit! Is
Was
that
that Matt Damon?
That's,
I don't
yeah,
remember that.
It doesn't look at all like
It
him
is Matt
because
Damon.
they totally like put all kinds
Why
of
is he
crap
just
on it,
popping
but
up
it's
in
Matt
Marvel movies
Damon.
now? He's just gonna start
Why
showing
don't you just take a part, Matt?
This could be a whole game.
He's gonna be
And
Find-
the other
find
guy
Matt.
was somebody else whose name I don't know, but he's famous that I recognize. But
That reminded me.
Anyway,
about the
anyway,
shout out
yeah.
to Brad Pitt for being the Invisible Man. I think.
yeah,
Brad Pitt was also
Yes.
in Deadpool too.
That was
one
amazing, and I
scene
loved
he's
it.
getting electrocuted.
Oh, that's
It's
who I
Brad
was thinking
Pitt.
you were. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to say that get off my chest now. I can listen.
Okay, we're off your chest. Sorry.
Someone who
My favorite villain.
you were speaking about Ultron, but have not yet said who your favorite villain
My
is.
favorite
Adam.
villain. I like the Vulture a lot. And
Me too.
yes, see?
Me
And I
too.
like him for multiple reasons. One, because I feel like he is a more... I use the word human a lot today. But he's a more literally human and also just kind of character-wise human villain than we've seen a lot. Is that they kind of ground him with a family that's also a family that's relevant to the main character. And they show him kind of at the beginning... and why and what his profession was and what he's doing, and he's not I'm gonna take over the world just for fun, villain. Mm-hmm. His motivation could technically go completely overpassed by the superheroes, and nothing would really change. I mean, he's selling guns, which isn't good, and people are using them for probably bad purposes. But he himself is not doing anything massively terrible. But he is also a rather threatening villain to the hero of the movie. And I think he does a good job of that, while also obviously not being Avengers level.
I agree. I thought he was a very good villain.
You haven't seen Spider-Man: Homecoming.
No, because I've heard more negative reactions to it.
Oh,
and usually when
I
negative
enjoyed
reactions, I'm at the point where there's so many Marvel movies. If enough people like it sucks, I'm like I'm not going to waste my time I'm kind of behind though. Like I haven't seen Black Panther and stuff yet. Which
I haven't seen Black Panther.
Which is
I'm trying.
Academy Award nominated movie Black Panther.
I was nominated for Best Picture.
I was gonna bring up a question about that, but now it doesn't.
I mean,
matter.
I'm aware of like the general overall story, kind of what happens in it.
I don't even know that. I know nothing about Black Panther.
Oh my gosh, I enjoy it. That's another.
what I've heard.
Michael B. Jordan is great.
Okay, yeah, I forgot about. I still like the Vulture more, but I do like Killmonger.
Oh, he's a great villain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely. I agree.
That was a sarcastic, yeah. In case you didn't know, he's not being serious.
Oh, maybe I am.
He hasn't seen the movie.
How do you know?
We just addressed that, Adam. Are you calling our listeners dumb? You're not dumb. You're smart.
You're talking to Adam because he's the only one. I think he's the one who listens to
That's right. Future Adam.
all the listeners.
Shout out to me walking across campus in the future because this is for you, buddy.
This is for you. How meta. Shout out to yourself.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, we're a cool guy, Adam.
You're a cool guy. You can do this.
Call yourself weed.
Today may be a little rough, but you got it, pal. You're almost there.
Check out Adam's reaction to talking to himself next week on Adam Sidebar.
It's gonna be big.
It's like a subsidiary of our podcast. Like we fund it, and we're like, hey, like, here's
We produce
It's like
Adam
Talking Dead.
Sidebar.
It's like Talking Dead for Walking Dead.
yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, it is.
There you go. So you're Chris Hardwick.
Yeah, I like it.
And I agree. I think we're as big, if not bigger, than The Walking Dead.
Walking Dead's not even relevant anymore.
Yeah.
Even though I
Sidebar is
heard
taking
this
over.
last season was
How
like
did Rick
one of its
die?
best seasons.
Wasn't there like
blow himself
creepy-
up?
Anyway,
Wait, well, spoilers. First of all, I guess if you're catching up with Walking Dead, then don't listen to what
die?
he just said.
Didn't Rick die? I thought
Spoilers.
Andrew Lincoln was
No,
in
he
the show
didn't
anymore, so I'm
die. He
assuming-
didn't.
That's what
die.
Oh, well, okay, then stop. Then don't turn any spoilers.
yeah,
then
then
I don't
don't
wanna-
Well, you spoiled the fact that he might have died.
They shared naturally that he was
That's
no
not a
longer on
spoiler
the
if
show.
it
I
only
said
might have
spoilers 3
happened.
times before I said
We
that.
all know that he's not on the show anymore. That's all I'm saying.
Put your hands down.
Whatever.
What is this?
I don't know. It's to get the point across. No one can see what we're doing, so none of this is relevant.
Just imagine the weirdest hand motions you can.
I know, I make them weird because it gets attention. People look at me and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Now that I have your attention, what do you guys think about the current political climate?
What do you think about it?
It's very tense. Wait, sorry, we need to keep it.
Bradley.
Favorite villain.
Wow.
Favorite?
Thanos.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Actually, because I kind of piggyback, I like Ultron, but I think Thanos is my favorite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because he's so goddamn likable.
He is.
really
you
is.
can't
You
help.
feel for the
you
dude.
can't help but understand like why he's doing what he's doing and like care
Hail
about
Malthus.
him and like
Hail Malthus.
Hey, it's the same general concept.
It is. It actually is the same
What'd you say?
philosophy that they
Hail
use.
Malthus, because like his concept of getting rid of population control, like, that's also the same kind of shit.
Yeah.
That's
You're
a
in town.
joke from Urinetown. If
Inside joke. Well, everyone who listens to this podcast was probably in Urinetown, so you all get it.
if you felt excluded from that, you can start listening again. We're done talking about Malthus.
Hail Malthus.
Okay. No, he because we talked about this in the villains episode, where, in my personal opinion, on a good villain is there has to be some reason that like some humane reason that motivates them to do what they're doing, and then they just don't have either the awareness or the filter, I guess, or the know-how to restrain themselves from just doing anything and everything to achieve that humane desire, that humane need. And it's like, but in his eyes, he really does believe, and I feel like everyone feels this way to an extent, but in his eyes, he really does feel like what he is doing is best for the universe.
Well, and objectively, though, if you were to remove the factors of humanity, and that he's killing half of all beings, and you look at just numbers on a spreadsheet, and you said if you could get rid of half these numbers, and then these numbers could then grow into more, and you could explain it in a more objective sense, you would agree with him. You'd be like, oh yeah, do what you got to do. But then when you find out that he's like, oh, I'm going to kill half of everything.
And then as soon as you bring in the human aspect of, well, and half could be, okay, you and your son can live, but your wife and your daughter aren't going to. Then all of a sudden you're like, you monster!
Yeah,
Right.
but it's personal.
Yeah, so once you make it personal, then it feels completely different.
But like even in his he's likable, like, and that makes me not like him more because like I don't want to like him because like you want to kill everyone, but it's like I like you. So.
Yeah, there's some people out there like on the internet that actually think that like Thanos is right. Have you heard about that? There was like a whole like big forum about like all these like group of people who like got together and were like talking about how Thanos
sure
is
there's a subreddit
actually
about it.
correct, and like
subreddit.
I don't, and like we don't get it because like
Why are we
he-
fighting against Thanos?
I mean, again, it goes objectively, he is correct, but it's not.
Although he does have the Infinity Gauntlet, which can do anything. Why not just make double?
I was
was
just
gonna
thinking,
say,
it was like, just make all the planets.
wow.
He has a very pessimistic view on how to solve the universe problems.
I saw a very funny meme. It was just a comic, like just a drawn out meme of Thanos saying like, you know, it was like a copy and paste of his whole thing about how his justification for killing half the universe, and someone was like, why don't you just make more crops?
No, see, here's what'll happen.
Just make infinite resources.
No, because
You're
that's
able to
easy.
wipe out the population in a snap. I'm sure
what's
you
gonna-
can make
no,
more
because
resources.
Double the McDonald's.
What's going to happen in like 40 years-ish, 30 years when we're all old and our kids are like, look at these old movies. They're going to make a new movie explaining this plot hole, much like Rogue
Hello,
One.
future children. You are listening.
They're going to go back
now.
and like, why couldn't Thanos just make more shit for people to eat?
And what's going to happen is it's going to be a great scene with an old Peter Dinklage, but they've de-aged him so he looks like he did in Infinity War, and it's going to be him building the gauntlet and just being like, you know, this crazy thing with the mold that we have with this gauntlet. You can't make anything with it. You can only destroy it. That's the most important scene for the entire movie.
And then Thanos will be in the last 10 seconds of the movie. You're like, there he is, but no!
Thanos is just picking up the gauntlet. Yeah,
Turns
thank
out
you.
that was his original plan. Was like, yeah, we're gonna get the gauntlet. We're gonna make double of everything. It's like, oh, you can't do that. Oh,
It can only kill if you just like.
Someone brings that.
I went. Like,
This isn't going to be a very popular bit.
well, guys,
Yeah, well, sorry.
just spitballing here. What if I just kill half everybody?
it should
I'm
work
trying to
the
read the
same.
room. A little cold out there, folks.
Let me finish.
You've got a bunch of giants with wrinkly chins just going, yeah, that's fine. That's, I don't like it, but it's good for the people.
As long as I get home by 5, I'm good. Wife's making meatloaf tonight.
Is that how the Thanosers, is the Titans, whatever Thanos is speak?
Can't miss meatloaf, man. You know?
Thanos and his group of Thanosi, that's plural,
Thanosai.
Thanosai, lived in the 50s of America, I guess.
Honey, I'm home.
The wife's making meatloaf.
Is there like any sort of system as to like which people get erased? And
I don't
which
think so. I think
If there is,
or was it just completely
they
random?
may explain
it is all of the not important Avengers. The ones that-
In theory, it's supposed to be random, but who actually died
Right.
was all of the new Avengers besides the original. Like,
yeah, they left all the original
Because
Avengers.
that's what's going to happen. The originals are going to save the day and then disappear off into the cosmos, and the new Avengers.
Although they did leave
Fill the spot.
Rhodey and Rocket, which I was surprised about. I didn't think
they're
Rhodey
gonna-
was going to make it, honestly.
Because they're going to be like some little side part. Because Captain Marvel's going to be the key to all this shit.
who's Rhodey?
Don Cheadle?
Don Cheadle.
Oh.
War Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know who Don Cheadle is.
It was
Wasn't Don Cheadle,
yeah,
right?
Terrence Howard.
Yeah.
And there was a whole thing with him and Robert Downey Jr. didn't like each other. And when they had to pick, like, well, do we get rid of Tony or we get rid of Rhodey? Fuck Rhodey. And they get rid of
Tony,
Rhodey.
that's
Although
Rhodey.
I like Terrence Howard a lot better than Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
Really?
I like Don Cheadle, but
Yeah.
I think Terrence Howard, for me, but again, it's because he was the original one for me. So I think when I
Yeah.
think of Rhodey, I picture Terrence Howard. So
Yeah.
if roles had been flipped, I'd be sitting here going, "Oh, I like Don Cheadle. Fuck Terrence Howard."
Right. Okay. Wow, that's such a riveting debate. I could literally do this for
Hours.
another 45 minutes or so. No, I'm not saying that's how long this is. I mean, you can just look at your timestamp. Adam, what else what else you got?
I
for
think
us?
this is going to be a good topic. Maybe it's just going to be me and Daniel arguing. But we've all seen Civil War, right?
Yeah.
All of us? Okay. Team
Oh,
Iron Man,
God.
Team Captain. You got to pick. Which
Remind
one are
me
you
what
on?
the
No.
stances were. It was
the preface
to sign up
to
for
the
government
Sokovia Accords
control.
was, is that the Avengers
not.
would sign up to be governed by a committee in the United Nations, and that they would decide whether or not they needed to call in the Avengers for certain situations. Now, like I said, you don't necessarily have to agree with that, but there are merits to both sides, and we'll discuss it now.
So,
Here's the
Captain
debate.
America
He
did
didn't
not-
explain it well. Here's the debate.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Dan talking.
The debate. This is a Dan. What did I say earlier?
Dan from Quick Sidebar.
Dan from Quick Sidebar here, sharing my opinion on the Civil War of Marvel. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna roll with it. I'm gonna roll with it.
Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
We're gonna talk about it. Basically, the debate is Tony's on the side that the government, that superheroes should be held accountable for their actions by the government and be like regulated and almost employed by the government. And Captain's on the side that you can't control superheroes, because once you start to control superheroes, then inevitably the government will then use them for maybe not so superhero-y things and turn them into just super soldiers, which is what Captain started as, and that's why he didn't want to go back and all this stuff. In the movie, they explain it as they're battling, someone, and it ends up killing Black Panther's dad.
Zemo dresses up as Bucky. Spoilers, by the way. And he blows up the United Nations committee, and then he's pretending to be Bucky. And then
everyone
Bucky
blames the Avengers in the classic
point of,
turn on the vigilante, but they're not vigilante. I guess they kind of are.
Well, and there was also that whole the destruction of the city in Avengers 2.
Yeah, well, they use those.
Thing,
They use the Battle of New York, the ships falling on Washington D.C. from Captain America 2. And then also the Sokovia. That's why it's called the Sokovia Accords, is because.
And that's the classic thing that we've seen, and that's like a reoccurring theme in superhero type situations, like where a superhero's doing good, and then after a while he starts to cause destruction because of his doing good, and then people are like, "Oh no, you're fucking things up. You need to stop."
Man of Steel.
Man of Steel.
That's true. Man of Steel does a similar plot.
When I can think of the video
game. The Incredibles. The Incredibles
is one. Like that's another
similar.
big pop culture thing.
Yeah,
The Incredibles is a great example.
But it's actually a realistic topic.
It's a great example for you.
If superheroes were a real thing,
young people who like Incredibles.
The next question would be, how would you regulate superheroes for the greater good of society?
Well, and that's what the debate. In the comic book, they blow up a school as these young superheroes who go to attack a villain, and then the villain ends up, I forget now.
Speedball or something.
He blows up and kills his school full of children. And then
that happened in the movie, too.
The kid, a lady's son died in the UN thing. It wasn't a school that got
No, there was something that... I remember. There was something...
Some lady had her kid get killed, but it wasn't...
It might not have been, but somebody...
And that's what Tony... And that's what happened in the comic book.
No. I'm thinking of something different. I'm thinking of Ultimate Alliance 2. which had the Civil War plot, and that's why I got my wires crossed. But yeah, that's the plot, is like Speedball or whatever.
I don't know. I just...
blows up a school bus.
Yeah. It's the same kind of thing. They kill kids and kill innocent people. I don't know.
Okay, so to regulate this, maybe... Because I can tell that Dan and Adam have discussed this, argued this
extensively.
I still am not clear on who's on whose side.
Well, hold on. So should Bradley and I give our 2 cents first, so that it's unbiased?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, do you agree with Tony that the government should have a hand in superheroes and regulate them? Basically, they'd have to register with the system, and the government would be aware of where they are, what they're doing, and how they're doing it, and then if they cause excessive damage and stuff, they'd have to help come up with money to pay for or something. But basically, are they held totally accountable even though they're doing something good? Or, like Captain said, should the government let the superheroes save the fucking day and then foot the bill, basically?
God, this is going to be a relevant conversation about AI technology in like 40 years.
This is very topical, basically. It's like, are these people who are doing good ultimately, should they be held responsible for the small things that happen on the way? That could be big. Again, on a personal level, if your kid's the one who died, then it's all you care about. But objectively, it's like, it's one person for a bunch of people.
Right. Oh, shoot.
What do you got for us, Jake?
I think that my gut reaction is Tony's side. Is regulating the superheroes, but I don't think it's black and white. I feel like there's got
to be an in between.
Yeah, where like there is.
Unfortunately, it is.
Well, but it's one of those situations where there isn't a black and white. But I mean, as the Avengers did, you would have to pick.
I would pick Tony. I think that it just makes more sense. I think that with great power comes great responsibility.
Hey-o.
But Uncle Ben.
I just think that, I mean, granted, if we're to take a realistic take on this, I'm sure that not all superheroes were born or chose to be superheroes. Some of them were born into it. Some of them had, a captain, where he kind of signed up for it, but didn't know what he was signing up for. Yeah. Like, I think that if you have these potentially like superpowers that could save hundreds of thousands of people, I think that there has to be some sort of regulation to that, because not everyone has it, and I think that it should be used for the greater good. But I just think that bad shit could happen.
Yeah,
if you regulate people that could do some nasty shit, like, you're setting yourself up for some sort of mutiny.
Well, and that's correct. To quote Captain America himself, he said, these groups have agendas and agendas change, and he's right. And things could go wrong. I don't want to give away my opinion, but I agree with you, is that it's very gray area as to any side. What about you, Bradley?
Well, sorry, thinking about Ultimate Alliance too got me thinking about thinking about the way that they did it in that. And I know that when I watched Civil War in the MCU, I think I ended up landing actually on Tony's side, and thinking that they should be regulated. But in Ultimate Alliance 2, the way that it was explained made me feel like absolutely not. Like this doesn't sound good at all. I don't remember exactly all the terms and everything that it was explained in the video game Ultimate Alliance 2. Not a sponsor. But it just sort of came across more like superheroes becoming government employees who are controlled by essentially the government, and the government can do whatever they want with them essentially, and have full jurisdiction over what they do, where they go, and are essentially like their general in the army, and these are all your soldiers. Which doesn't seem safe.
Nope.
I already know where you two stand. It's become very apparent.
But to be fair, to preface my attack against Adam,
I'll go ahead and just, for the sake of, based off of what I said, and for the sake of discussion, since Jake kind of took Tony's side, I'll take Captain America's side.
Come over to the right side.
I do want to just say one quick thing too. Is I think that, and I guess this maybe falls in the gray area, but like there should be regulation. But it's almost like personal regulation.
Exactly.
Where it's like these superheroes are fighting evil, right? And when they're fighting evil, they should be restricted. But it shouldn't be like the government controls them and then gets to choose what they do and don't do.
But how do you? Okay, and it's a fair point. But let's just say you're fighting. You're Captain America, and you're fighting the aliens that are attacking New York City, and you get to a point when you have to use something to beat them or stop them. It's like, oh, that's against the rules. I guess everyone's gonna die.
Ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Well, Captain wants the more self-regulate. Like, that's why the Avengers exist. That's why he's the lead Avenger. It's just like, I'm in charge, or we're going to self-regulate through our goodwill and intentions. But to be fair, to preface my attack, like I was saying, I read the comic book Civil War first, which has a dramatically different spin on the overall. Because to briefly go through it, you end up hating Tony a lot more, because in there it gets a lot more intense, and Tony releases supervillains with the government's help. They release them to go fight the.
That's how it was in
to go fight the Captain.
game.
Yeah, they release like Jack-o'-lantern, and he almost kills Peter Parker. Peter Parker reveals who he is, so then they start attacking Aunt May and shit. Like, all this shit goes down, and superheroes get killed because they release all these villains to attack Captain America. And Captain almost kills Tony, like he's about to fucking destroy his, like smash his head in and kill him, and then Captain ends up getting murdered right after the Civil War, and then there's the whole death of Captain America. Very sad.
Wow.
But based on just the movie, it's easier to see why people would agree with Tony, because one, you like Robert Downey Jr., and then they put the whole element of his parents getting murdered by the Winter Soldier, who was fucking brainwashed.
Okay, but like I've discussed with you multiple times, and you have ignored me every time I mention this to you. Yeah, if you personally were in a room and you watched a video of your long-lost loved parents being killed by the guy standing 3 feet away from you, your first reaction wouldn't be, he was brainwashed, therefore I forgive him. Most likely, especially if you're in a super iron suit, would be to go kick his ass. That's what most people. Granted, he was acting irrationally, I will say that. But he was acting irrationally on the preface of watching his mother die in front of him. So therefore, I think he can be forgiven to a point.
So he wants to basically whore out all the superheroes.
Whatever. No. Okay. No.
Hey, I'm just gonna say something real quick.
Oh,
I'm just gonna pause real quick. Imagine superheroes were real today, currently in our current situation.
Maybe they are.
And imagine our government having control over them. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna leave it.
Okay. Wait. But let me rephrase that. That they in the movie are not being controlled by the American government. They are being controlled by a body of the United Nations.
Yeah. Again, that's a movie thing, but. again, imagine having anyone in power currently
That's
having
true.
control over
It's
super
scary.
beings
But
that can
okay,
kill us
let's
all.
look at it from the perspective of the world governments. Even though I don't necessarily agree with them, but all they know is that they were doing things normally, normal human operations, and then starting in 2012, a bunch of aliens showed up out of the sky in New York City, and superheroes and stuff started getting blown up every year sequentially since then. They would be freaking out, and they're like, well, we can't just we don't know when this is going to happen. We need to figure out a way to regulate this crap.
Well, and imagine the insurance claims that the government would have against them too. Like, who pays for all that damage?
Well, I think that's the
superheroes
point,
have to
is
be
that
insured.
as part of the Sokovia Accords, they would have representation and probably some kind of insurance along with this kind of stuff. But yeah. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, but if you really get into the debate, because obviously me and Adam just get into it because it's Iron Man versus Captain, so that's where the main
go
debate.
Iron Man all the way.
Whatever, Team Captain, the first Avenger, bitch.
The first MCU Avenger? Thank you.
No one gives a. Literally, the title of his movie is Captain America: The First Avenger.
Okay, the first Avenger, chronologically, timeline-wise, for the whole series, Iron Man started the whole thing, my mans. The Iron Man movie was the beginning of all this.
And who is the better movie? So, suck a dick.
I've admitted to you before. This is just me and Daniel arguing. We should.
What's the next
Or
topic,
maybe
Adam?
We hope you enjoyed that 7-minute argument between Dan and himself.
Adam's not real. I just made him up just so I could talk to myself. All right,
Wow.
do you have any closing statements, Adam, or any last little questions?
I actually do have a closing statement, since we were speaking about.
It's a lot of man leg I just touched. Oof.
Are we all touching his man leg?
No,
Sure.
Jake just has a lot of
Sure,
leg.
touch my man leg.
I just accidentally touched Jake's man leg, and it was just a lot of man
We
leg.
all touched the man.
We got our fixing in. Yeah, what's up?
Since we were speaking about Marvel and Marvel movies, I wanted to give a shout out to our recently lost hero, Stan Lee.
Stanley.
He wrote and created all these amazing heroes and allowed us to enjoy their stories. So I just wanted to give a RIP to him and recognition of the fact that if it weren't for that amazing man, we wouldn't be talking about this right now.
Superheroes, fun fact, if we don't know this, are a strictly American culture thing that we invented.
Yeah, they are. They're
The idea of how we perceive and like discussing superheroes is an American invented storyline. So it's one of the few things America has contributed to the world culturally. Superheroes, pow.
Wow.
And
Pow.
cheeseburgers, superheroes,
Lemonade.
and obesity.
Oh yeah.
Before 1776, there was no obesity. That's not true at all.
Yeah.
It's not even a little true. King Louis the 14th.
Yeah, you fat fuck.
I think.
Yeah,
So
but
the
back then
French
that was
invented
popular.
obesity.
French. Luckily, I don't think we have any listeners in France because they probably stupid. I don't know the accent. Super.
stupid American.
And we would like to reiterate, as we always do, the French, not a sponsor.
Never a sponsor. France will never be a sponsor of this podcast. As if you had a World War II so sloppily, never know. No.
I don't care if the prime minister, what is his name, Macron?
I don't even know.
I don't know.
Macaron.
I don't know if he. I don't care if he offers us $1 billion. No, actually, if he does that for our podcast, I would say yes, please.
Yeah, we'll become French. I'll become French. Sidebar.
Where we talk about anything and everything.
Oh boy.
I've been working on it.
Oh, that was
You have to work a little harder. We're talking about $1 billion, Jake. Okay.
That's not gonna cut French, dude. Convincingly French.
Oh boy.
What was that?
Oh, that's my
Dropped
phone.
something.
Dropped my phone.
All right.
Yeah, I think that was a full
Wait,
episode.
real quick though, we said our favorite movies. We never said our favorite actual heroes.
Iron
Man.
Man. That's Adam that said that.
Adam, obviously, mine's Captain.
Oh God.
Just for the hero, just for their merit. I mean, their movies may be ass.
Yeah.
They are good. Of course, mine has 2 good movies.
Oh
on it.
gosh.
This is hard.
It's really hard.
That's it.
Okay, knee-jerk reaction. If I said, "Who's your favorite Marvel superhero?"
Iron Man.
Spider-Man.
Okay,
But not in the
there you
MCU.
Also, I like Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. I wish I wish that was canon because he was a good.
We all
fucking bad
love
guy.
Willem Dafoe.
Bruce, love you, man.
Shout out.
Shout out, Brucey.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Bradley.
if you'd like to email us a topic that we can talk about at the end of our episode, or if it's big enough, maybe we'll fill out a whole episode with it, then go ahead and email us at quicksidebar@gmail.com, and we'll give you
keep an eye out for
give you a shout
Adam's
out.
Sidebar.
You know what we can do actually
Gmail coming
is
that as well.
we can. I'm going to take a look at the current emails that we have. SoundCloud says, "Dear Quick Sidebar Podcast, we received payment." That's not a suggestion.
Disregard that.
Anything else?
Here's what it says. Hello, we're writing to let you know of an update that may impact you. After January 31st, the ability to automatically post YouTube is a YouTube email. We haven't got any emails. That was
That was the bit.
That was the bit.
That's not a big deal. We haven't gotten any emails. That's not a...
Yeah, wow.
Be sure to check us out on our socials. Quick_sidebar at Instagram and Twitter. We post a lot of updates on those, letting you know when new videos and podcasts are coming out, and all of our goofy, professionally done promos. You know, those are some good promos out there, right? Really promote the channel and the company. What are we? I don't know.
We're a collaboration
Group of entertainment studio.
Conglomerate.
A conglomerate.
Yeah.
Nice. So follow us on those things. Share with your... We have skits. We have 2 of them out now.
Yeah.
We have what, Dan?
Oh, skits. Sorry. Skits. No, skit. Jake has a weird thing about calling them skits. I don't know why. He's never explained it. He just prefers sketches.
I don't even know if I can explain it. I just like sketches better.
Yeah,
He sent
sketches just sounds more professional.
It does. Skit sounds like, hey,
something you're
Mom,
gonna
Dad,
put
let
on.
me show you this skit I just wrote.
Yeah.
What do they call on SNL?
Sketches.
Are they sketches?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Sketches.
Check out our sketches or skits, whatever you like, on YouTube. They're there.
They're funny, I think.
Yeah.
No, you
My
you
parents
decide.
really enjoyed Dinosaur Bones.
Good.
Yeah.
So did mine.
Sorry, Struggles.
Struggles.
Spoilers.
I forgot what I was going to say. Thank you, Project Meta, for sponsoring this episode. Remember, if you want to get fuck.
He almost had it.
I was trying to really speed through it.
If you want to buy a shirt with our logo
If you
want
to buy a shirt with our old logo, new shirts are in the process. But if you want to buy a vintage, a
while
retro
they're
Quick
hot.
Sidebar shirt, or any other Project Meta merchandise, go to projectmetaonline.wixsite.com/projectmeta and use coupon code SIDEBAR for 10% off your purchase.
Wow,
How
good
was
job.
that? Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Well, last quick shout out to Adam for being a guest.
Yeah,
Finally, he's
dude.
waited very
Thank you.
patiently. Good guest. Brought a lot of topics.
I hope I was
discussion.
good.
No, you're great.
Maybe we'll have you back. I don't know. Maybe we'll.
Hey,
we'll contact
that'd be
you.
cool.
If Dan's ever sick, you just swap in for him and no one will know.
I'm Dan. Anger.
Insert
People will know. People will know.
Yeah. See, you couldn't even tell it wasn't me, right? So good. Well, thanks, folks, for sticking with us. If you have, we're still here. So
We're still here.
and we're not going away.
Ever.
I guess until we stop paying SoundCloud. Listen
I don't
to
think
us.
Jake will ever stop. We've talked about this. In 50 years
Yeah.
from now, once we've all grown old and we're moved on, we'll get together for like a little reunion thing. And Jake's wife at the time will be like, Jake's been paying for the last 50 years $20 a month for your stupid podcast on SoundCloud, and he'll have paid like $10,000 or something at that point. We're like, Jake, you're still paying for that shit? And they'll be like, yeah. And that'll be
Just for
it.
nostalgia, because he's sad and alone, and that's all he has is to pay for it.
Sad and alone with a wife, I guess. That's
That's
even
Happens all the time.
that's even worse.
Why is your big meaty man like so close to me, Jake? Why?
Dan, because
the
I
second time I touched
was sitting cross-legged and my knee was hurting.